Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say good afternoon to all the members of the public service, and also a special welcome to the media. Today, I'm just continuing my promise to update the media regularly and things that the government are doing for this country. Allow me this afternoon to speak on two important matters: one, immigration initiatives, and two, my upcoming trip to Brazil. I'll speak first about immigration. As you are aware, Mr. Guy Hill was recently appointed to act as Chief Immigration Officer. I'm pleased that he's taken up his challenge, and I have no doubt that he will do well in his new capacity. I want to thank the former Chief Immigration Officer, Mr. Dennis Jennings, for his years of dedicated service. We wish him well in his future endeavors. In early October, I reissued to Mr. Hill a mandate to strengthen border protection in his territory. I asked him to put in place the requisite policies to improve border management, and he has already hit the ground running. Already the department is preparing to launch an Immigration Residence Academy, a series of training workshops geared towards educating the public and key stakeholders like travel agents, event promoters, ferry operators, charter companies, for example, on what official documents or requirements are needed for entry into the Virgin Islands. At the Academy, persons will learn about the requirements for issuing and renewing entry permits, how extensions to landing permits are granted, how applications are processed like the Certificate of Residence and Belonging Status, and how non-belongers then holding license identification cards are granted. I also asked Mr. Hill to ensure that the department collaborates with other enforcement agencies locally, regionally, and internationally. Just yesterday, the officers from both Immigration and Customs Departments were at a retreat brainstorming ideas and strategies on how they could work collaboratively together, so I'm pleased we are moving forward. The department is also working on being able to issue a landing permit where visitors upon first entry would be allowed to stay for up to 8 weeks. The goal is to allow visitors to enjoy and explore the BVI over an extended period. In striking a balance between border management and customer service, the Immigration Department remains committed to providing exceptional customer service. I know that much has been said in the media throughout the week about the Immigration Department, but as we continue to welcome residents and visitors to this territory, my government, through the BVI Tourist Board, will continue our We Are One BVI territory-wide customer service campaign, so that we are building a BVI brand that will attract repeat guests to these Virgin Islands and to our businesses. I encourage all immigration officers to continue to give of your best. I appreciate the work that you do. As you continue to find strategic ways of enhancing our customer service brand, I want to encourage the public to join the government in this strategic direction, as full cooperation is needed to strengthen the links between border control and customer service to meet international standards and our expectations. Turning to the cruise pair, I'll address this briefly. I want to reiterate that my government is committed to the development of the cruise pair. It is absolutely critical that the pair be lengthened in order for us to accommodate larger ships and increase the number of cruise visitors to our islands. We will continue to engage all the stakeholders of the development, including the cruise lines, their representatives, taxi drivers, and tour operators. I want to be clear. We want all cruise lines to visit our port. I will continue to engage them to try and achieve success in the best interest of the BVI. My ministers and I are committed to developing the cruise industry and the wider BVI economy, and we will work tirelessly to do so. Lastly, on Monday in the House of Assembly, I mentioned that I will travel to Brazil with Chairman of the Tourist Board, Mr. Russell Harrigan, and worldwide marketing consultant Nerdin St. Rose to further assert the BVI's presence in the Brazilian market. As you already know, I have charged the BVI Tourist Board with finding strategic ways of increasing annuals to over arrivals by at least 10%. I see this as important if we are to reduce the territory's dependency on a few source markets. We will be making sales calls to major travel agents and tour operators. We have a media luncheon planned with approximately 25 media houses, a roundtable discussion with the owners of 8 major tour operators, and a partnership with the organizers of World Travel Week to host a launch reception for over 100 industry professionals in Rio. I'm looking forward to this important trip to set the stage in welcoming South America to these Virgin Islands. Thank you for listening, and I'll join you and be able to field your questions.
Ready? Melissa Edwards,
Test 1, 2.
News. Premier Smith, you just mentioned that government will continue to engage all the cruise lines. Are you surprised by the reaction received in response to Carnival's planned pullout of the BVI, and how do you intend to move forward? Last evening, the Minister of Communication and Works had indicated initially that government is not, well, basically not turning back. This is the direction they're moving with NCL and Disney. So, and the Vice President of Carnival has made it publicly clear in relation to the aborting agreements that government is seeking to have with these two major airlines, that they will not come to the BVI based on that. He has made that clear. So my question is, how does government intend to move forward with this? Is there no turning back? What?
Let me reiterate. We are, as a government, committed to the development of an extension of the cruise dock facility in order to be able to forward the cruise tourism in the British Virgin Islands. In this regard, we will continue. My ministers and I continue to have meetings discussing the way forward. We will continue. We have, in fact, engaged discussions with the various cruise lines and the stakeholders, including the Minister for Communication and Works, and I will continue to have discussions with them as well. This includes Carnival as well as other cruise lines.
So basically there's no concrete decision by government. You just said that you're continuing with the development, which includes negotiations with these two airlines for aborting agreements. Am I correct?
That is correct. The project is not, the planning for the project is not completed yet.
So it's correct to say there's no concrete decision on where the government is moving forward. So you'll re-engage Carnival.
Government is moving forward with the development of the extension of the project.
I'm speaking in relation to the aborting agreement.
Of course, yeah. Naturally,
you're moving forward with that.
We are moving forward with the development of the project. We are continuing to engage.
Sir, with all due respect, that's
discussions
not the question.
with all the cruise lines, including Carnival.
But Carnival has made their position very clear. If that's the direction government is going, they will not come to the BVI. So that's why I'm asking that question.
I understand, and I heard the comments made by Carnival. This is why I'm saying and repeating that we will continue to have discussions with Carnival. Because what we would like to see is all the cruise lines coming to the BVI. And to that effect, we have to continue discussions.
Good afternoon, sir. Zan Lewis, ZBVI. The whole issue, the Minister of Communications had said that they're negotiating berthing agreements with Norwegian and Disney. That is the area where they're going. The Carnival Cruise Lines has pulled out. Taxi drivers are up in arms. They are saying that you got to be mad to pull Carnival Cruise Lines out of the Virgin Islands. They made it clear. The question is, will the minister be still negotiating, because I believe it's a negotiation process. The agreement has not been signed. As a result of what happened last evening and the taximen voicing their concerns, does it mean that the minister will be continuing along those same lines negotiating, or they will be probably going back and talk to Carnival Cruise, or there might be a change of idea?
What I just said is that we will continue negotiating and discussing with all airlines, including Carnival. We have already, the minister has engaged Carnival. I personally will engage in talks with Carnival as well.
So will it be correct to say that the possibility exists that this agreement may not be signed?
The possibility exists that all the cruise lines will continue to visit the BVI.
I'm talking about the agreement, sir. Will that agreement, is there, as a result of what happened, is there a possibility that government may take a new look in terms of signing that agreement because of the concerns?
As I said, the talks and negotiations are continuing. Nothing is fixed. So until we have concluded those discussions with all the lines, then we'll be able to make a statement.
You're happy, sir, in light of what's happening, what the taxi driver said, you're happy to still go along the line in which you are going, in light of their concerns?
You're obviously not listening. We have heard the comments of the taxi drivers, and we have taken them on board because we, of course, the taxi drivers are important stakeholders in this whole question of the cruise industry. And this is why we will continue to engage with other cruise lines and also engage with the taxi drivers as well. In fact, I invited them to come and meet with me next Friday.
Just one follow-up. Premier Smith, maybe you can explain to me the previous proposed plan for the cruise pier development with TPP, Tortola Paper Group. Well, government wasn't really putting much money or any at all into that project, that proposed project, which is no longer there. What I want to know, in this agreement, why is it that the Ports Authority has to give berthing rights to these two airlines? Cruise lines, my apologies. These two cruise lines. Is that necessary now when the Ports Authority themselves are financing this project? Is it worth it, given the concerns raised by Carnival?
These concerns is what we will be continuing to discuss with Carnival. But they are including berthing rights. But the issue is that in order to be able to continue to develop the cruise dock, the things like berthing rights and guarantees of fees are important considerations when it comes to providing the necessary funding for the extension.
Just one follow-up. You spoke about continuing talks with Carnival and so on. I just want to know, have you spoken to the officials of Carnival since they've made their concerns known?
I personally have not spoken to them, but I intend to do so at the earliest opportunity.
Premier Smith, Ron Henry with Virgin Islands News Online. Would you say the government made a misstep, perhaps, in not consulting adequately all stakeholders, such as the tour operators and taxi drivers, before going ahead with negotiations with Carnival Cruise Lines?
The Minister of Communications, the Ministry of Communication and Works, and the Port Authority have been in constant communication with various stakeholders from the beginning, the inception of the program of the extension of the cruise dock.
Does that
I think that discussions need to continue, but they have been in discussion with them.
Does that include taxi drivers and tour operators?
There has been discussion with taxi drivers and corporations. But what I'm saying is that the further discussion needs to continue.
Okay, so they were spoken to before Carnival was approached to have this arrangement at this current, well, not Carnival, sorry, NCL and Disney. From the time we decided to go and develop and extend the cruise dock, all stakeholders have been over time been engaged in discussions about the project. I'm making specific reference to the berthing agreements with NCL and Disney and the approach that you're saying that all stakeholders were consulted. So I'm asking specifically about that.
I cannot tell you the details of what happened during the discussions, but I know that there were continued discussions with all the stakeholders. Yeah.
Just on another topic, could you speak about the issue in relation to the Hong Kong office, and if there's been someone appointed as head, and if so, when that person will be announced and will start?
Someone has been pinpointed, let us say, as the head, and the announcement, once it's we've had the discussions, the announcement will be coming in the next few weeks, I would think. But we have already made an offer to someone, but we have to make sure that that offer is satisfactory, and then we'll be able to make an announcement.
So the offer hasn't been accepted fully, is what you're saying?
No, we need to make sure that all the details about the offer is satisfactory to both sides, and then we'll be able to make an announcement.
Okay.
Malika McPherson, the Island Sun newspaper. Mr. Premier, Since your government took office, you really announced how heavy you're going to be going after the South American market in terms of tourism. But now you're announcing that you're going to be traveling to Brazil soon. Is this, or can this be interpreted as a way to get some mileage from World Cup fever?
Some mileage on what? Please repeat.
Well, as we know, the world is actually looking at Brazil right now, considering that the country will be hosting World Cup. And can it be deemed a strategic move to take a delegation down there now to discuss BVI tourism?
No, I don't think so. I do not think that was taken into consideration because the other people will be from other countries, I'm sure, visiting. But we, as you recall, I did say that we were there earlier in the year. And now we are returning because we have appointed an agent to work for us. And we're now beginning the work of this particular agent and launching their work for the BVI in Brazil.
And another question, tourism related. Sir, we're hearing a lot about the focus government is placing on overnight stays, and we've heard of your focus as it relates to the cruise line industry and cruise tourism. But some persons in the community want to know what government is doing to improve the charter yacht, or what commitments you're making now towards that sector of the tourism economy of the BVI. We're not hearing as much about government's commitment to the charter yacht industry.
We are committed to the charter industry as we are to all aspects of the tourism business. And in fact, over the past several years, 2 years certainly, while we were struggling now where there were decreased numbers from both overnight and cruise, the charter industry continued to perform well. And we give them the support that is necessary, and we expect it to continue to perform. As you know, BVI has excellent sailing waters, and that is why it's so attractive. And we continue to give licenses to persons who wish to be involved in the charter industry so this industry can continue to grow.
Premier, Horace Mills, BVI News. Back to the cruise negotiations. Among taxi operators and some other persons, there's a general feeling that there is something hidden in the fine prints, something underhand. How would your government respond to that? And is everything above board?
Well, everything is above board. And we would not be making a statement if everything was not above board. The fact is that we have engaged, and we continue to engage all the stakeholders to make sure that we develop the cruise fare so that it will be to the benefit of the cruise industry and essentially the entire BVI.
And some taxi operators have called for your government to fire the managing director of the Ports Authority. Is that a legitimate call? What would you say regarding that?
I have no reason to believe that this is required, and certainly it's not, in my purview. If there are any persons who think that there should be action taken in that direction, then I suggest that they, have a discussion with the managing director, and put across their views and their discontent, or with the board. But certainly, from my point of view, I have no reason to support such an idea.
Good afternoon, Jason Smith with the Beacon. One of the promises that was made in the NDP manifesto, and you were speaking about immigration earlier, one of the promises made, you said that the government would be speaking with the United States officials to institute pre-clearance of visitors and pre-screening to make the process a little easier. What's the status of that?
We have actually begun the engagement through the Inter-Virgin Islands Conference. We have not made as much progress as I'd like to see, but we are continuing the engagement towards that effect.
Thank you. And you said earlier, with regards to the agreement with, with regards to the agreement with Tortola Ports Partners, what was the, let me rephrase that a second.
Okay.
That's the question. Thanks.
Premier, are you satisfied with the work done by the negotiation team? This is in relation to the cruise fare project. how they're handling it with the cruise lines. Are you satisfied?
At the moment, we have not entered into the
So
negotiation.
far.
Oh, well,
Given all the
of course,
controversy,
yeah,
that's
all the negotiations that has taken place, we were satisfied with. And if you recall, during those negotiations, we did have with us international people. There was an international accounting firm and international legal firm who were there just to make sure that we were getting the right advice and the right benefits.
Mr. Premier, in light of last evening's meeting, the Minister of Communications said that there's no need for panic. You think there's need for panic in light of the response from the taxi drivers last evening? Everything's cool, no need to panic?
Certainly what I've said to you earlier, is that we as a government would like to see all the cruise lines continue to operate in the BVI. Certainly what I've said also, that we continue to engage all the cruise lines and all the stakeholders, and that we have invited, I have personally invited the taxi drivers to a meeting with me. They should tell you that, in my opinion, that there's no need to panic.
So everything is good.
That
Premier, as regards Mr. Guy Hill, who has been appointed acting, he has been given a lot of work to do in terms of strengthening border protection. But he has 1 year. He can do that in 1 year. Why he can do all of that, what you're telling him to do in 1 year? Because I believe, very strangely outlined, that he only has 1 year to act.
I did not indicate that he's going to be 1 year as head of the department. The appointment which he has right now, is an appointment between him and the Human Resource Department. And this is just an initial appointment, but he expects him to continue to do good work for us in that area as head of the Immigration Department.
Got my sentence together now. According to recently released documents that were tabled before the House of Assembly the other week, the Ports Authority in 2008 was profitable, and as recently as 2011 was not profitable. Revenue seems to be declining and expenses have risen. And I was wondering what steps you're taking to reverse that situation and return to profitability.
The reorganization of the ports will help move it towards profitability. But what had actually happened too is while the port showed profits in up to 2008, he said, since then, monies from the port are also used to assist with further development, port developments, which are necessary. And as we continue these developments, you will notice that there will be some drawdown on the monies, the reserves that the ports had accumulated. But then this will be built up over time. But these developments are absolutely necessary. For example, we have to consider development of the dock in West End and Rotang and in Virgin Gorda. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Premier Smith, recently there have been several reports in the press of pending layoffs at companies such as Lime, CIBC, First Caribbean Bank, and First Bank. How has your government responded to these reports, and have there been any talks? If there have been any talks, do you feel that you've been effective in providing some sort of solution between the affected workers and the companies?
Yes, I understand that there have been some layoffs, and we really do sympathize with the persons who have been laid off. But what I am glad is that some of those persons, many of them have found other employment, even employment in government. And this is the reason why my government is pursuing development such as a cruise dock, such as the airport, such as the development of a hotel infrastructure to be able to create new employment in the territory. That's why also we've created the Business Bureau, and why we've also recently funded it, so that too will be able to help to create new businesses and hence new employment in the territory.
But has government actually held talks with any of those companies that I mentioned just now?
We talk to them all the time, yes.
Do you believe that the discussions have been fruitful?
Discussions are fruitful, yes. It depends on what you mean by fruitful, but discussions are fruitful.
I
yes.
mean, have the workers found your intervention beneficial to them?
I think that the workers have found comfort in the intervention by government. And I believe that while we can say that there have been layoffs, many businesses have got to make business decisions, right? And sometimes it means downsizing in order to be able to rebuild and then get large again, right? During this time, then this is why I said during this time, government must assist with and also try to foster growth in other areas so that employment can be offered in other areas as well.
One final follow-up. Are you worried about the state of the economy with the frequency of layoffs being announced?
The frequency of layoffs depends on numbers, does not necessarily reflect the state of the economy. The state of the economy is determined by all the work that goes on in the territory. And so while there may be layoffs in one area, there may be people being added to the workforce in other areas and other forms of activity. So it's not a simple question, not an easy question. As you recall, I said the economy dropped by about 0.2% last year, and that is not a significant drop. We have not had the statistics for 2013, we won't have them as yet to be able to make a statement about the economy for this year.
Mr. Premier, in the House of Assembly, when remarks were made by a District Representative Marlon Penn about a particular radio station, in your response you said that you're going to look into the matter and it will be addressed. What do you mean?
What I do mean is that while we all agree that there must be freedom of the press, freedom of expression, I also believe that the press has a certain responsibility to the country in which they operate and also to the people in the country in which they operate. When you consider the press and in addition to the blogs which are there, the press has a responsibility to monitor those things so that there's no suggestion of persons being victimized or maligned unnecessarily or the country having a bad name because of what may be carried.
So when you say looking into the matter, what do you mean looking into the matter?
I mean having discussions with the media to put forward those exact points I just mentioned.
Finally, the government would have severed or terminated negotiations with TPP, but are there still consultants in TPP advising the government about the pair development?
As we continue our progress with the development of the pair, this is now something new. We remember that we had discontinued or disengaged with TPP. As we go forward now, all contracts, whether it be for consultants or for the person involved in doing work, will have to be tendered in the normal way according to protocols.
Don't think you answered the question, sir. There are still consultants in the TPP advising the government with the pair development.
We have discontinued our engagement with TPP.
Generally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Premier, in the House of Assembly on Monday, 3rd District Representative Honorable Julian Fraser, he made a really long presentation, and one of the things that he bemoaned was the crime situation in the territory. From what he said, I have a four-part question. One of the things he mentioned was the overcrowding of the prison, which is no secret. Recently, sister territory Bermuda announced that they're going to be going to the mother country, which is the UK, and ask them to take on some of the more serious criminals in order to alleviate the overcrowding situation. Do you think that this is a way, or this is something that the BVI would consider? I'll ask that, and then if there's time, I'll ask you the other parts of the question.
Okay. It is certainly a way that we can consider, especially when it relates to persons who are convicted of very serious offenses, considered maybe dangerous if you wish. But apart from that, what we are looking at is alternative sentencing, so that as many people are not sent to prison, but are instead having other forms of punishment or whatever, and also maybe even shortening the prison sentences depends on behavior and other factors. So there are other ways we are looking at as far as sentencing is concerned.
Okay, just to follow up on what you just said, alternative sentencing is something that has been mentioned before, but as far as my memory serves me, I think there were constraints in relation to the legislation that deals with alternative sentencing. Where are we with that?
Exactly. So the matter is being taken forward now, and various forms of alternative sentences are being put together, and the necessary legislation is being put in place to deal with it. Yeah.
The Security Council was mentioned, and along with that came the suggestion for constitutional advancement, and also it was hinted that perhaps the surveillance-related legislation that was just passed might not be the panacea that it was first presented to be. What do you think about those points?
When you say panacea, we do not expect the surveillance activity by the CCTV cameras to be the end-all and be-all of activity as far as halting criminal activity in the country is concerned. That is just another aspect of what we are doing. And I'd just like to also say that the statistics have shown that there's a reduced numbers of crime during this period, up to this period in 2013 when compared to 2012.
Mention was made of the 2007 Constitution and some points, and like I said, there was a hint of perhaps a need being for constitutional advancement as it relates to the powers of the governor, which was a hot button topic during the whole constitutional reform process. And given that the document is a living one, do you think that this is a step that might be considered anytime soon?
If you recall, during the discussions on the constitutional change in 2007, the government was not supported by the members of the opposition who formed part of the team. And this is perhaps why we did not achieve the result we wanted to achieve. Given that scenario, it was difficult to move forward. But I believe, as you said, the Constitution is a living document, and there will be a time when we'll be able to go back to the drawing board and say to the British government, let's have a look again at the Constitution and see what changes we need to make it more modern.
Yes, Premier. Every government in office thinks about the next election. Since your government was elected, there have been talks about projects, the pier, the sewage problem would be resolved. There are talks, but we haven't seen anything tangible. Are you concerned about that and the fact that you have roughly 2 years remaining in government, in office, for instance?
What concerns me is delivering to the people of the BVI to improve the situation, improve the economy, improve the sewage system. I know that it's taken some time, but progress is being made, and we will deliver on most of those things.
And immigration. Persons have been complaining that they have been waiting for residency and so on. And last year, you promised that at the start of the new year, you would have looked into the matter and hold talks with them. Where are we regarding this?
The matter of residency, there is a board, an immigration board, and they're the ones who review applications for residency and determine which application is forwarded to the minister and the cabinet for approval. And that is the process which is engaged, which operates according to the laws of the BVI. Good. So I'd like to thank you all for coming, and look forward to continuing discussion at another time. Thank you.